Have you ever noticed how radical Islamists, radical Islamic terrorists, i.e. jihadists, have you ever noticed how the attacks never take place in Japan? Have you ever noticed how it's always U.S. American citizens who get killed? Have you ever noticed how it's always your fellow Americans, your brothers and sisters? I'm just saying, like, fellow Americans. Have you ever noticed how it's fellow Americans? It's Americans who get killed. And it's never Japan. It's never Korea. It's never China. Do you know why? Because America has a policy of tolerance, where it tolerates terrorism and pretends like it doesn't. I'll give you an example. America's fake partnership, fake alliance with the Saudi Arabian government. Now, I'm not going to go into some dissertation about how not everyone in Saudi Arabia is a bad person. I'm talking about the government of Saudi Arabia specifically. The terrorist government of Saudi Arabia. See, in America, we can have as many fucking guns as we want as U.S. American citizens. I can go out and buy a fucking arsenal of weapons. The same as any private military. The same as any private military company. I can go and buy a warehouse fucking full of weapons as long as I have a license to do that. And I can have a full-on private military fucking arsenal. In Saudi Arabia, you can't do that. Because the terrorist government of Saudi Arabia, it oppresses its people. It kills its dissidents. It kills its citizens. It tortures and dismembers its citizens. See, if Saudi Arabians could have guns like we have, then the Saudi Arabian government wouldn't exist, because the people of Saudi Arabia would rise up. The people of Saudi Arabia would rise up and kill the oppressive terrorist regime of Saudi Arabia, the terrorist fucking government of Saudi Arabia. And the same is true in Iran. But in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, which both have terrorist governments, they're not friends of America. They're not real true allies of America. The only reason why Mohammed bin Salman is doing any business with America is because his country has oil. And Donald Trump and our government have to pretend like we're friends with Saudi Arabia. We're not friends with Saudi Arabia. Government of Saudi Arabia. I'm not talking about the decent citizens of Saudi Arabia. I'm not talking about the God-fearing, moderate, decent, law-abiding citizens, good folks of Saudi Arabia. I'm talking about the terrorist fucking government of Saudi Arabia. That's what I'm talking about. We're not fucking friends with the government of Saudi Arabia in any way, fucking shape, or form. They're enemies of the United States. They're enemies of the United States of America. They're liars, they're deceivers, they're fucking terrorists. They're in no way, shape, or form our friends or allies. The statements that they made, the remarks that they made, that they are saddened and disheartened by the recent Saudi national shooter in America, it's all bullshit. They don't give a fuck. They cheer for shit like that. Just like Iran chants death to America. We are not friends with Saudi Arabia's government. They are not our allies. They're enemies of the United States. They're a terrorist, rogue fucking regime. And they always have been. Forever and always. It's always been the case. They have never been our friends or allies. They don't care about you. They don't care about us. They believe in some crazy shit. Some fucking shit that is totally illogical, that doesn't make any kind of fucking sense. And that's why women were just recently allowed to drive vehicles in their country. They're an oppressive terrorist regime. They're goddamn fucking terrorists. And every time I hear that Mohammed bin Salman has made some type of statement where he's pretending to be a good person after he killed one of our Western journalists, it makes me sick to my fucking stomach. I'll rise to power, man, and I'll fucking deal with the terrorist fucking regime of Saudi Arabia, and I don't give a fucking shit. and I'm not a timid fucking person. No, my country has real atomic nuclear motherfucking weapons, you son of a fucking bitch. Real nuclear fucking weapons. And God forbid, the real God forbid, hopefully we never have to ever use them, but we have them. And they're here if we ever need to fucking use them. Yeah, they're terrorist fucking regimes. Iran's government is a terrorist government. Saudi Arabia's government is a fucking terrorist government. And have you noticed how the terrorist attacks never take place in Japan and China and Korea? You know why? Because they don't play that shit in Japan. They don't play that shit in Korea. They don't play that shit in China. China is sending the world a message. You fuck around with China, you end up in a fucking concentration camp. They don't give a shit. Unabashedly. You fuck around with China, you end up in a concentration camp. And what's America gonna do? Is America gonna come to your aid? Is America willing to risk a thermonuclear war to break you out of a fucking Chinese concentration Hitler, Third Reich, Fourth Reich Nazi fucking camp? Nah, America's currently not willing to do that. So, if you get caught up in a concentration camp, like what you would see out of Nazi Germany, and even worse, because it's the highest grade security, secured fortress system. Chinese government doesn't give a shit what people think about the Chinese government. Doesn't give a shit what people think about what China's doing. You get caught up in China, they'll put you in a 21st fucking century, high security, beyond state of the fucking art, military black site fortress concentration camp for trying that shit in their country. Trying that jihad shit. Yeah, have you ever noticed there are no terrorist attacks in China on the level of the United States? Have you noticed that? Oh no, it's only U.S. American citizens who get blown up in Islamic jihadist terrorist campaigns. It's never China, it's never Japan, and it's never Korea. It's only America. What a fucking coincidence.